Hello, let's look at another variation of the Ruy-Lopez, this time the exchange variation. I'm gonna cover a few more variations after that. I'm thinking maybe 5 videos about Ruy-Lopez is a good number. So white takes knight, black takes bishop, after that castle, and now black plays f6 to protect the e5 pawn. But there are other moves also, like bishop g4, pinning the knight, or queen d6, or bishop d6. But let's look at f6 at least first. So here white plays d4, and the pawns are actually exchanged. c5, hitting the knight, b3. Now the knight can also go to e2, actually. It's almost as common. But let's look at knight b3. Okay, queens are exchanged, and now black plays bishop g4, usually. He can also just play bishop d7 or bishop d6, developing the pieces. And this is highly drawish, so if you're playing black, then with the right moves you should be able to get a draw. But if the white player knows this exchange variation extremely well, then he might know how to squeeze out a win. So that's why black should be prepared for the exchange variation. So here usually e6, then develop bishop here, f4 is also possible, and just knight c3 is also okay. b6 consolidating, knight c3, also a4 was possible. Now bishop d6 developing, and here most common is just a4. Maybe the idea is to constrain black's pawn mass here, or something like that. And here black usually plays king f7, but he can also castle long. King f7 looks better, and it's more popular. a5, c5, an in-between move, knight d4, and now b5. Knight takes e, king takes e6, and then I think this is pretty much the end of the main line, because now white can play knight to d5, black can contest it with knight e7. It should be equal. I mean, maybe white has a minuscule advantage, but yeah, it should be a draw. So 16 moves for both. So let's look at some other stuff. For example, well, let's look at this first. If black castles queenside, what can white do? In response to a5, maybe queen b7, and now white can play e5, sacrificing a pawn, or just take on b6. Let's look at e5. why won't black take it? Let's see. There's a game here from 1998, and it continues knight e4, a takes b, b takes c, so, and now capturing back. And white got his pawn back. Let's look at that again. So e5, f takes. Now this threat, and black is afraid to take there because the pawn structure is just too bad. And also he doesn't want to play b5 because maybe this pawn would be too strong here, and then this pawn would fall. So white will get the pawn back on the queen side, and he will temporarily get this knight to this strong e4 post. So I guess it's only a temporary sack. Okay, so let's look at a takes b. Just c takes b and it should be a draw. Actually, there can be the same e5 idea, but it's not a big difference. Okay, let's look at some other stuff too, so that this video wouldn't be too short. We can't have that. We must have our daily 10-minute study of openings. So yes, here instead of knight c3, white can just go a4 straight away, but it doesn't really make a huge difference because here knight c3 is most common, so it's just like a transposition. How about bishop f4 here on move 11? How does black play then? Maybe c4 followed by castling long. Interesting. Of course, white can't take the bishop because now this knight is pinned, and this castling also protects the c pawn. Okay, so knight c3, now this threat exists because the rooks are connected, so this knight is not pinned anymore. Bishop f7, knight f5, exchange of rooks, and knight e7, and this should also be a draw. Okay, so let's go back some more. Here instead of bishop e6, black can retreat the bishop to d7, but I guess that doesn't make a big difference. Still castle long, knight c3, the same kind of moves. Perhaps e6 is more active, although there it could be a target if black plays c4 and white can play knight to d4, but other than that, maybe there's not a huge difference. So here on move 9, black doesn't have to play bishop g4. He can also just play bishop d7, which is a little bit more quiet, but it gives better results for white. And also he can play just bishop d6, but it's not very interesting. I mean, white can do something like this, but yeah, it's a quite rare position. This is all under the Kg1 variation. I'm not sure exactly where it started, but we can try to find that out also. So yeah, if we go back a little, here white can also go to e2. Let's see what happens then. Exchanging queens, bishop d7 most common, knight c3, castle long, and it's pretty much the same story. White has a slight advantage, but it should be a draw, like most chess games. So I think that's pretty much it. We could still maybe watch variations after bishop g4 on move 5. Now usually white tries to kick that knight. Now black has this trap of gaining control of the h file, and if white takes, black takes, the knight has to move, and then boom, queen comes to h4, and it's pretty much checkmate. So white doesn't take there. He activates his bishop. He can develop a knight. So this is totally different type of position. Now d4. Black doesn't react. And now this is a very interesting variation. White takes the bishop. But here he is forced to give back the knight, because apparently he can't take the rook. White takes on g4, and then material is even again. Queen h4, exchange, and well, this seems to be better for white. So if you're black, don't go into this variation. But this is something that can happen from the exchange variation, and it's pretty common too. But it looks to be bad for black. So yeah, you can analyze it why white can't take the rook. I'll probably also do that and post it in the comments later. But this is an interesting, it's called Alapin Gambit, because black is kind of gambiting the bishop. And of course black can just take on f3, but it's much more boring that way. Let's look at the other moves also. Queen d6, knight a3 is most common, taking advantage of the queen, or the position of the queen. Now still f6, rook d1, placing it opposite the queen. c5, trying to stop d4. c3, trying to get it in anyway. Now here black can castle long, making it even more difficult to play d4, because white would need one more protector, for example bishop. And black can also play bishop g4, which is most common, pinning the knight, making that knight immobile. So h3, and now d4 still isn't possible. Knight e7, and now actually it looks like a pawn sack, but let's see, where's the compensation? E takes and hitting the queen, d7. This is very interesting. I mean, white gave a pawn. If black plays knight c6, then it's better for white. Exchanging of some material here. Black takes a pawn, and then, I mean, this is a white win, but I don't know if giving that pawn was really justifiable for white. But at least in this game, white won nevertheless. Okay, but let's go back. That's not the main line. I can't give game examples of every move, because then that would just be insane, because there's no way to remember it. So it's possible for white to push d4, but I don't know if it's correct. Okay, so let's look at one more way for black to fight against the exchange variation, which is bishop d6. Here white usually just plays d4. Exchange, the pawns are being exchanged, and queen takes d is most common. So here black can be in trouble easily if he's not careful. f6 protecting g7, bishop e3, knight e7 developing, knight d2. White wants to use the c pawn, I presume. Bishop e6, queen c3, getting out of that dangerous file, I guess. Knight d4, queen e7, exchange. I don't know if this is a drawish position, but black has only like 1 or 2 wins from this position, so I don't know, it looks drawish to me, so I'm gonna judge that it's a draw. Yeah. So here, let's look at the main line once more, something to try to remember. "16 moves by white, 16 moves by black," and so we have mastered another variation of the Ruy-Lopez, one of the 28 variations, I think, in Wikipedia. So, or at least we have touched one of the variations, one more of the variations. So thanks for watching, and yes, stay with me on this journey until the 100th opening series video, after which I'm sure we will all be more prepared to face different openings. Thanks, bye.